Today, we're going to talk about a company that absolutely tore up the rulebook on rapid growth. I'm talking about Mercor.
Get this, in just 17 months, a company started by a couple of 22-year-olds went from a $1 million run rate to over $500 million. Yeah, you heard that right.
So that begs the question, right? How on earth did they do that? Well, let's dive in. The secret isn't just about what they built, it's really about how they think. It's a whole philosophy.
Okay, so first, to really get their mindset, you have to wrap your head around just how fast they grew. We're talking about the fastest growth in history. Okay, look at this timeline, $1 million run rate. Then, just 11 months later, they hit $100 million. And then, only 17 months after starting this climb, they're at $500 million. I mean, that's a speed that just leaves most Silicon Valley legends in the dust. And you know, this wasn't just luck. It was a very specific set of 7 principles. We've kind of boiled them down into 3 main pillars to make sense of it all.
All right, so let's jump into that first pillar, having a truly radical mindset. This is where they basically redefine what ambition even means.
So we're not talking about making small tweaks here and there. Nope, this is a whole belief system. It's built on 3 core ideas. First, being obsessed, not just disciplined. Second, having a can-do attitude that leads to setting absolutely wild goals. And third, this powerful idea that, you can just do things, a real bias for action.
And this gets to the heart of that obsession piece. The CEO, Brendan Foody, he puts it perfectly. He says, you gotta find the problem you just can't stop thinking about. The one that follows you around even when you're with friends. He argues that, yeah, discipline is fine, but you can't build something truly game-changing on discipline alone. You need a decade-long obsession. It's a totally different level of commitment.
And that obsession leads to this can-do attitude. Here's a crazy example. When they were at a $1.5 million run rate, they told investors they'd hit $50 million by the end of the year. I mean, that sounds insane, right? Well, they actually did it. They hit the target within 2 weeks of their deadline. See, by setting these ridiculously high goals, the whole company just naturally starts making decisions that point toward that insane target.
So, a radical mindset is great, but let's be real. It's pretty useless if you can't actually execute on it. And that brings us to the second principle.
Their whole execution framework really boils down to 3 things. 1, they believe in what's called the power law of talent, the idea that a small number of people drive most of the results. 2, they have uncompromisingly high standards, no exceptions. And 3, they maintain this incredible intensity. But it's not forced, it's just what happens when you're all in on the mission.
Okay, so let's dig into that talent piece, because it's so important. Look at how they hire. The traditional way is all about culture fit or vibes, hiring people you'd want to grab a beer with. Mercor throws that out the window. They're all about data. They use assessments to find the absolute top 10 to 20% of performers. It's about objectively finding that tiny group of people who are going to create almost all of the company's value.
And sticking to this philosophy, it took extreme patience. As the CEO said, those first 10 people you hire, they're going to shape the next 100. Getting those first hires right is probably the most important thing you'll ever do when scaling. They basically set the company's DNA.
And this is how they get that intense culture we talked about. It's not about forcing people to work crazy hours. It's not about a mandated 9-to-9 schedule. It's the natural result of hiring what they call missionaries, people who are just genuinely obsessed with the problem and love the work. The intensity just happens.
All right, on to our third and final pillar, systematic scaling. This is where they take that mindset and that execution and turn it into a repeatable engine for insane growth.
So their scaling engine really has 3 main parts. First, they turn labor into software. Second, they are unbelievably frugal and efficient with their capital. And third, they always think long-term.
This idea of turning labor into software is, well, it's the whole ballgame for them. They believe knowledge work is changing. Instead of paying someone over and over again to do a task, that's a variable cost, they focus on training an AI agent to do that same task, just once. That turns it into a fixed cost. It's a brilliant shift.
And then there's the frugality. You'd think a company with a massive valuation would be spending like crazy, right? Not Mercor. They have a maniacal focus on being profitable. In fact, they bootstrapped all the way to $1 million run rate before they even took any venture capital. They even keep their cash in super safe treasury bills. For them, raising money isn't the goal. It's just a tool you use to build a better product.
So how do you deal with the insane stress of growing this fast?
Well, they got some great advice from Jack Dorsey, who told them to stay private as long as you possibly can. This lets you zoom out and think on a 10-year timeline, instead of getting bogged down by the pressure of hitting quarterly numbers for the public market.
Okay, so we've gone through a lot. What's the big lesson here? What's the main takeaway from Mercor's wild ride?
I think the core lesson is this. A founder's mindset isn't just one piece of the puzzle. It's the entire operating system of the business. It dictates everything: your ambition, how you execute, and how you scale. When you put that radical ambition together with uncompromising execution and a system for scaling, you create this incredible flywheel for growth, where every single part just makes the others stronger.
And that leaves us with one final thought. The entire Mercor story started because a couple of people saw an inefficiency in the market and just decided to act on it. So the real question for you is, what inefficiency are you going to fix today?